afternoon, you rockin' awesome people out there. My name is Scott Churchson. That is Mr. Obi Spencer, and down yonder is Mr. JD Walker. And welcome to the Sports Den on Spangler Sports World Network, Zingo TV, channel 249 and 250. BT Dubs, make sure to download the Zingo TV app on the app stores of iOS and Android devices, assuming you have one of those too. When you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. Both apps are free, so you cannot beat the price there. By the way, also, second BT Dubs, Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. Bottom line, if you have technology that does not involve CRTs and rabbit ears, you can get Zingo. Gentlemen, how you doing tonight?
FWIW, the BT Dubs made me throw up in my mouth a little bit. No, sorry, just LOL there.
WTH, yo. LOL, haha, you know.
All right.
Smiley face poop emoji question mark? I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, poop emoji.
Let's talk sports. I'm great. I mean, last weekend is hyped as the best weekend in sports for football fans every year, but this year lived up to the hype. We are going to talk about that, I'm sure. I know there's a few other things you want to touch on, but how can a football fan like I am not have a great week? I mean, unless somebody poop emojis on my face, I should be good.
By the way, should I start doing that? Maybe just take a clip of this and just put like poop emojis around you, you know? So.
Instagram something.
Quick, get the images out. All right.
Hashtag OBPoo. Yeah, like you said, it's actually been a phenomenal weekend. You know, the kind that can take someone who knows nothing about football and make them a fan for life. You know, we saw upsets on top of upsets. You know, we saw games coming down to the wire. 3 different games ended with a field goal, and the other game ended with a touchdown in overtime. We're going to talk about the overtime rules too a little bit later. But Mr. Walker, give me your thoughts, sir.
I think that it was a fantastic weekend of games, especially following up the flaming poop emoji that was the wild card round. So,
as we're getting comments over there for the flaming poop emoji.
So, the combined before last weekend, the record for lowest combined margin of victory in division round was 18 points. We got 12 between 4 games this week. You know, game-winning field goal, game-winning field goal, game-winning field goal, game-winning touchdown in overtime.
Yeah,
you couldn't have scripted that any better. You know, the main thing about that is, you know, what happens with the overtime rules. You know, do we keep what I like to call the family feud overtime rules, where you can where if you get the number one answer, a touchdown, you win. But if you get a field goal, the other team has a chance to steal.
You know, I mean, like I said, I would love to delve into that one a little bit further. Having a little bit, both me and Obi having a little bit more age on you in this case, and maybe a little bit of a different perspective. I don't know Obi's thoughts on this one iota, and I'm actually looking forward to finding that out in its due time. But before we get to that, I do want to cover some of the games yourself. Yeah, exactly.
I spreadsheeted this.
Exactly.
Obi has a spreadsheet for everything.
He does, yeah. I was gonna say, he's got a spreadsheet about a spreadsheet too. You know, to cover the spreadsheet and explain the spreadsheets. But I mean, yeah, if we start out with, in this case, Cincinnati and Tennessee. You know, I mean, props to the Bengals. I mean, Houday had never won a playoff game in 31 years. And you know what? They won 2 in a row. And they've got a sophomore quarterback. It looks like he's getting better. They've got Mixon. They've got a lot to look forward to in Cincinnati, which, frankly, as good a sports town as it is, has not had good success over the course of the last few decades when it comes to supporting their home teams and the success of the home teams.
So I love that Tennessee game, and call Tennessee 1. We're going to count something up, by the way, because I know there's going to be another conversation I think we're going to get to, if not today, in the future. But call Tennessee Exhibit 1 for another conversation. But they kept getting pressure on him, knocking him down, 9 sacks. It was crazy. Yeah. He got up every single time. It's a guy whose knee was bad from last year, never showed signs, and led his team quite successfully. I am a huge Burrow fan, probably his kiss of death. I think that in the end, the other game we're going to talk about in the AFC, this guy's going to be higher up on the list than Allen, but that's probably the kiss of death. But those sacks worry me not just for the offensive line, which is the 30th worst
Mhm.
uh, offensive line win rate percentage team. So that's a sign that the line is bad. But I do count sacks as a quarterback stat. And I've been doing all sorts of numbers and looking and ranking, and I still can't wrap my head around exactly what it means. But he wasn't blitzed a lot. I mean, Zach Wilson, that's the guy they blitz because of the rookies. They do get a lot of pressure on him, but he also takes more sacks rank wise than other guys who have more pressure on him than he does. So coaching Joe Burrow out of sacks is going to be a big thing. And for anyone who doesn't really remember, there's a guy, Watson, who's sitting out right now, who everybody loves, but he has a problem getting sacked. And every time he would get hurt, whoever the quarterback who came in after him, whether he was as good as or not with Watson, did not have the getting sacked problem. So I'm very excited about Cincinnati. I don't think they're going to beat this Kansas City team because I don't think they're going to be able to keep up because I just have concerns about that offensive line and what the defense is going to do differently in a playoff game that means an awful lot versus a regular season game that didn't mean as much.
I mean, Kansas City didn't have an overpowering defense in this game. I mean, that game had no defense at all, really. So, so if anything, that does slightly work to the Bengals' advantage. Could we see it? Will in all likelihood be another shootout? I think. I mean, the Bengals' defense is decent, but not as good as the Buffalo defense, which Mahomes torched in this game. So I do think Kansas City probably beats Cincinnati because for as great as Joe Burrow is, he's not Mahomes yet, but we could be wrong. On NFL Insiders the other day, we talked about how Burrow is young and dumb enough to not realize the pressure. That could be their advantage, but also, from a historical standpoint, quarterbacks usually don't, catch lightning in a bottle and run right to the Super Bowl in their first try. They may get close, fall short, and come back the next year. But for a complete out of nowhere run like the Bengals and Joe Burrow, that usually doesn't happen. That was the reason why I was not buying in on Kyler Murray earlier this year,
Mhm.
and that proved to be accurate with how he got blasted in the first round by the Rams. So, it gets a few wins, but does it get past the Chiefs? I'm not so sure about that. As we've just seen, anything is possible.
True. I mean, I have to give you the same take on this one as well. The Chiefs, by the way, have been there before. This is brand new territory for Cincinnati. No disrespect. You can grow a lot from something like this. And as far as the offensive line goes, you can fix that and you can work on that in the offseason because you're going to suddenly be able to have players that are going to want to go there, knowing the success that they're having, and might prefer something that may be a little bit of a smaller market, which Cincinnati kind of is by comparison to, like, say, New York or LA. But back to the original point, KC has been down this road before. This is a day at the office for a team like that, for a group like Mahomes, Kelsey, and Hill and the rest of them. Excuse me. So you have to look at it from the standpoint of be able to validate that part of it and understand that this is a Cincinnati team that is playing in one of the loudest stadiums in the country against one of the all-time best quarterbacks one could argue that you might ever see, especially in the next 5, 10, 15 years in Patrick Mahomes. Are they there yet? No, I don't think Cincinnati is, but they have a lot to grow on. That the offensive line is concerning. I mean, for all intents and purposes, Cincinnati should have lost that game. But when you take that many sacks, when Tannehill threw, I believe, 3 interceptions, one on his first pass, which turned into 3 points, one inside the 10-yard line of the Bengals, which at the very least would have been 3 points. This is basically something that happens, when you're dealing with American football in this case, versus saying, European football or with, what we Americans say soccer. It's always a big funny thing there where you can have 3-7 points instantly turn like that. I have to go with it from that perspective and kind of question a little bit about what Cincinnati can do in this particular case going against the Chiefs. I don't think they get it done. I think the Chiefs go back. I think they lost last year. They want to prove that they can win it this year, even if basically the team that they lost to last year will not be in it. So
KC is also hosting the AFC Championship game for the 4th year in a row, which is a record, with the previous record being 3. Andy Reid being the coach of both teams.
Yes,
they've in the previous 3, they won the last 2, hosted the past 3. Now trying for their 3rd and 4th in a row, respectively. I like their chances, and also we have the possibility of, for the 2nd year in a row, possibly having a team playing a Super Bowl in their home stadium.
Yeah,
since the Super Bowl is in LA this year in SoFi Stadium, which
second year in a row, very possible.
Yeah, and this time
Tampa last year.
Yeah, you had Tampa.
That's what he said. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it never happened before. Now we might, up until last year, now we might see it 2 years in a row, depending on what the Rams do in their game. And this is also the first time that the Rams are hosting the NFC Championship game and possibly the Super Bowl, because Tampa won all their games on the road last year before they ended up coming back home to win the Super Bowl.
Sure, but I guess we can basically knock this out as far as we'll finish up the AFC in this case. You have, and this is going to probably tie into the overtime rules. I think we may as well do that there. The Chiefs won in overtime. Mahomes to Kelsey, which has happened so many times in the past, possibly none bigger than this one in overtime. But there's been a lot of complaints right now about the fact that the overtime rules do not give the other team the chance to be able to, get the ball in the event of a touchdown, like what happened. Obi, like I said, I'm going to start with you because I want to get your thoughts on this one specifically, because I don't know what they are. I know what they are. I don't.
All right, me, first of all, it starts with this. McDermott's head on a stick. This guy needs coaching lessons. They scored that touchdown with 13 seconds left, and everything he did from that moment on told me he thought he won that game.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, go for 2. Go for, and I'm cursing in my mouth, 2. You have Patrick Mahomes on the other side, and whatever you feel about the overtime rules, you know what they are. And you know that if he's in that 13 seconds, he gets a field goal and gets the ball, you're probably going to lose. So go for 2. Harbaugh's not in the playoffs, but that's because Harbaugh understands the rules, and he was trying to win out the game out there. You play to win the game. Number 2, you still don't realize you haven't won that game yet? Then you don't squib kick. Give me McDermott's job. That's it. That guy, it's probably a slight overreaction, but your annual review gives you an F. I mean, you gave that game away. I just aplectic, because the people who are mostly now telling me that I need to change my overtime rules are Bills Mafia. And I'm telling you, you need to play to win the game. I've been having a debate with a good friend of mine, attorney brother Tom Anier. I hope you're watching. I asked you to. He posted an article. Since the rules have changed, the team that has won the coin flip is 10-1. So that all of a sudden goes, maybe there's a problem with the overtime rule. So I'm going to take some time here. First is 2012 Broncos, Steelers. Broncos win the coin flip. Tim Tebow does what Tim Tebow does, and that's win. By the way, with 1 minute and 37 seconds left, the game is tied, and Steelers have 2 timeouts. They don't score. You don't deserve a chance to get the ball back. As a matter of fact, it was the Broncos' turn. Next game that maybe you remember, my friend Scott, the 2012 Giants against the San Francisco 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Giants actually did win that.
Steve Weatherford mouthing something on national television.
Yes. The Giants did win on their second possession, but we had 8 minutes and 27 seconds of football that was tied. So I don't even overtime shouldn't have happened. Somebody should have scored in regulation anyway. Broncos Ravens in 2013, that was multiple overtimes. So the team that won the coin flip won, but nobody could score. That's probably what would have happened had the San Francisco 49ers not gotten the field goal this game, we would have been enjoying, we'd still be watching that game. The one game I feel bad here for is the 2015 Seahawks-Packs. Seahawks did score on the first drive. I didn't see anything in the game replay that made me go, oh, the Packers had a chance to do something. Now we go to 2017, our Super Bowl that the Falcons lost to the Patriots in. They punted on 4th and 6 with 11 seconds remaining. There was also a spike play on that, and we can talk a lot about that. But these coaches at this point, you practice the 2-minute drill so much, you should have 3 or 4 plays that you're calling the 2-minute drill and not wasting a play. And just flip up a number, you're talking in the helmet. The spike play should not be something that happens very often in the NFL. Save when Mahomes was Stafford was doing it because he was literally running down the clock for the field goal.
Now, at what point is it actually on the defense to make a stop in any of these games? If you want the ball, how about your defense actually shows up for the first time in the game?
I appreciate that you don't want to keep hearing it, and that is the other point. That's where I was going to get to eventually. A lot of these, it is on the first try, but the defense is part of football. Special teams is part of football. There's so many opportunities that, I love the overtime, and I think there's plenty of teams can do in the regular part of the game. I could have kept going through these games. And there's times when the teams are playing the tie. Well, don't play the tie. It's a 50-50 coin toss. Don't play for that. You want to win the game, win the game. So I'm all for, I don't want to change the overtime rule because eventually every debate leads down to going the college route, and then it comes down to a 2-point conversion anyway. So get that 2-point conversion in regulation.
Yeah. JD, you want to go ahead before I go into mine?
I mean, with the I get what they were doing. The reason for McDermott going for the extra point and not the 2 after that last touchdown is because he would have been killed if he'd gone for the 2 and missed and been up by 2 and lost on a field goal. So I understand that sense. They should have tried to run the clock out more. And I said, watching the game, I said 13 seconds is still too much time. In those four scores after the last 2 minutes, after the 2-minute warning. And everybody knew it. All right, either one of these quarterbacks is capable of scoring, and they did. So just when the whole stadium knows you're going to do it, how about you actually try? How about the defense actually shows up for once? You think that overtime rules, are worth looking at? But I don't want to go the college route either. There's something there's got to be a happy medium here somewhere. Maybe you put in the rule of if you score a touchdown and get a 2-point conversion, then you win. But if you take the extra point, I don't know. Maybe you could do something with that. I'm not even,
So I don't want the game to go on to infinity. Is my point. Number one, but number two, you even said it there. You said McDermott would have been fried had he gone for 2 and then the field goal. But you said it. Defense needs to make a stop. So you go for the field goal. You go for the 2 points so that if you got it, now they have 13 seconds to score a touchdown. And the second thing you do is you man up and you say, it's a 50-50 shot. You guys can talk about it all you want. And say what Harbaugh said. I have a 50-50 shot. I want to control that. I want to put the ball in Allen's hands. And when we get to the Tampa Bay game, we can talk about how they did not put the ball in Stafford's hands until it absolutely mattered, and that almost cost them the game. But put the ball in Allen's hands. The point of the argument about overtime, which coaches have the stats on, 10 of 11 games, the team to win the coin toss has won the game. So that some people say says the overtime rule stinks. I say no, win in regulation, and win in regulation. Put the ball in Allen's hands, Stafford's hands, Mahomes' hands, Rodgers' hands. Put it in somebody's hands who you trust, and don't let it get to a coin flip because that is luck, right? So that is my argument. And when coaches are more worried about winning and not their jobs, they'll win more. Look at Belichick. Now, granted, Belichick literally changed the game by being so good he could go for it on fourth down and lose the game, and everyone went, "Oh, you can do that and keep your job because you're Bill Belichick." And then all the coaches.
Yeah, and also, as we lost sound for Obi. We another part of it is that with the overtime rules the way they are, Belichick also had a point where he was deferring. This is regular season, mind you, where he was deferring the coin toss, even the possession, even if they won, so he could have second crack at it.
Mhm.
And I don't know the record of when he did that, but that also introduced a new line of other coaches overthinking and realizing, wait, maybe it's okay if we don't win the toss.
A degree of
But,
chutzpah.
not if you never touch the ball and don't get a stop.
Yeah. I mean, here's the one thing. I want to add one thing to this, maybe two. Obi and I come from the era when kickoffs used to be at the 30-yard line and first score would end it. So a field goal would end. So you have a ball that's kickoff from the 30-yard line. It goes short. They take it to their own 30. And then from there, they run, they get 35, maybe 40 yards, kick a field goal, win the game. That's the way it used to be back in the day. So I like the new system here where the field goal does not finalize it. It adds a world of drama to a fourth down when you're basically behind it, by 3 points. The only thing I would like to change with something like this is to make it a universal 15 minutes in overtime. It pisses me off big time when you have games like Pittsburgh and Detroit that end up only being 10 minutes in overtime, where both sides have a genuine opportunity to get the ball and you end with a tie. I don't want a tie. Make it 15 minutes.
Did you watch that game? The tie was appropriate for that game.
I know. But my point is, I would say I don't like a tie in general. So make it 15 minutes like it used to be. Keep the 2 timeouts. That's fine. Keep the system where it is, where, a field goal does not end it. I like that part of it. But make it a full 15 minutes in regular season. It irks me when you have more ties now, like you used to than you used to have, because of the fact that you have literally 1/3 less overtime than you used to have. Point number 2. I don't know if you guys happen to see this, but did you see what happened when Tennessee got their first touchdown in that game against Cincinnati? And if you didn't, it's okay.
I
didn't
was
see
not
that.
on screen.
Okay, saw that.
They were behind 6-0. They, on two, Cincinnati had 2 field goals.
Oh yeah,
They came back. Yeah. But see, did you know what happened prior? They went for 2. But what happened was they had gotten the extra point, and then a penalty on Cincinnati gave them the option that they had declined their own extra point to take the penalty, go half the distance to the goal from the 2-yard line to the 1-yard line, handed the ball off, and just failed. They cost themselves Tennessee cost themselves a point because they tried to get greedy with the 2-point conversion. I don't know if I would doubt that has anything to do with the decisions that were made up in Buffalo, but it was one of those ironic twists where that same thing where, opting to go for 2 instead of getting the guaranteed 1 ended up hurting Tennessee. And in this case, the opposite ended up hurting Buffalo. So,
yeah, the math of a missed 2-point conversion in the first half is, although it does have a value.
I was screaming at my TV. It's like, what the hell are you guys doing here? You don't leave points off the board.
Well, it's tough because you're 1 yard away and you have Derrick Henry.
You don't want to give the team momentum. You just gave your team the lead. 7-6 is not much, granted, but you just came back. You just took the lead for the first time in your game, and you gave it back to get greedy.
The math about how it affected the end of the game is hard to calculate because every decision from there on is made at 6-6, not 7-6. 1 point is twice as many as 2, but you're kind of right. Like the idea of saving the 2-point conversion to the end is a good idea, unless somebody finally decides every time I score I go for 2, because I think I can do better than 50%. So that's their next mistake. Now that
coaches have tried that on the high school and college level. It's only a matter of time before somebody in the NFL tries it. Yeah. There was a coach where he was a longtime high school coach, and he did get a college job at I think it was a Division II school, and he did the Obi philosophy, never punt.
Yes, I did not know he ever made it to the pros, but he didn't punt. And he always on.
He didn't go to the pros, but I think he did. But he did
I-
make college on a D2 level. I wouldn't be surprised to see somebody at a pro level try something like that at some point.
Don Shula said someday a coach will have enough guts to go do what's right and never punt.
Mm.
Now that means he himself didn't have enough guts to do it.
But it is not this day.
But it's not me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically the. So, right now, Obi is just you okay there, man? Okay. If you want to use hand signals, that's fine. Basically whatever signals you want to use, whatever fingers you want to use, it's okay too. But anyway, yeah, we are exactly there. You go. That works fine.
Not any fingers.
Exactly.
FCC safe here.
But yeah, for right now we're about halfway through at this point. This is the Sports Den on Spanglish Sports World and Spanglish World Network. Mr. JD Walker's down there. Mr. Obi Spencer is over there. You can kind of see maybe a little bit of him right there. But let's, at this point, we may as well move over to the NFC. We had a couple of games in the NFC that one was a good one was a shocker. Let's start with the shocker one first. We'll go in chronological order. We had the 49ers going into Green Bay, and by God, actually beat Aaron Rodgers on his home turf on a Saturday night, international stage, and ended what may have been a great career in Green Bay in kind of a humiliating fashion, much like his predecessor did in the 2007-2008 season. Being beaten by an upstart team, ironically on a game-winning field goal. That's exactly how Brett Favre played his last game over in Green Bay back then. So maybe it's something in the Green Bay water. I don't know. But give me your thoughts on that game, what happened, and do you think San Francisco's got a shot this weekend?
San Francisco absolutely has a shot, especially since since this will be the third time they played the Rams this year. I believe they split the first two.
No. San Francisco has won the last 6.
San Francisco's beaten the Rams the last 6 times.
6 times the Rams since 2019. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Rams were playing on a mission Sunday as if they wanted another shot at San Francisco. And San Francisco's style of play, and with Bosa and the defensive stars, is reminiscent of the Giants teams that won the Super Bowls and had that game-winning field goal in Green Bay. So it's possible, but Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't had to do very much. He did just enough, but the defense and the special teams won that game. Rodgers was knocked around and knocked out of his element from the beginning. And when they kept coming up short in the first half, after what looked like it was going to be a blowout from the start, because they marched right down the field and scored on their first drive and didn't score a single touchdown after that. And after the first 2 drives, I said, they really should be hanging up more points than they are. I don't know if San Francisco will stay down like this the whole game, and they didn't. And when it started snowing at halftime, it seemed like it affected the Packers more, even though the Packers were playing at home. With Rodgers coming up small after talking up a big game in many different sides on and off the field. For him talking as much trash, as he was, to come up small like that is a huge stain on Rodgers' legacy, and I do not see any way he comes back to Green Bay next year. Especially after trying to force his way out this past offseason. They made it work for one more season. I think he'll eventually say, I want out, and they will figure out a way to trade him somewhere and get some sort of return.
Can you guys hear me?
Now, I'm going to ask you 2 questions on this, and then, Obi, I'm going to give you those 2 questions. One, do you think this hurts Rodgers' value in the offseason? And ironically enough, do you think what's happened helps Garoppolo's value in the offseason?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
In a perfect world, well, perfect as in the kind of chaos that I like to see regarding transactions, you could make a case for Garoppolo and Rodgers being traded straight up for each other. I know it won't happen, but you could make a case for it both ways, especially with Rodgers being a native of NorCal. So the Niners were his hometown team growing up.
Mhm.
And there's only 1 year left on the contract for both teams. They already have their replacements in the building. With Lance and Jordan Love. I don't think that happens, especially with Rodgers and the fact that they need to see that because of how the rookie contracts work, the Packers need to figure out next year in what will be Love's third season to figure out if they have anything there. But I do think that Rodgers, that wherever Garoppolo ends up, I believe he has restored his market value. Somebody will make a play for him, and it could be the Packers, but I don't think it will be. And Rodgers, the best spot for him is probably either Denver or Pittsburgh.
So Jimmy Garoppolo. So all right, starting with the game itself. I don't know how you can judge Garoppolo's performance in that game when we saw Aaron Rodgers' performance as well. So obviously it was a hard game to throw in. It was an atrocious game to throw in. The Packers lost a key piece in Dillon in that sort of game, but they didn't show up. And I think they didn't show up, and so therefore they lost. Their special teams were bad all season. Special teams is what mattered in that game. And it wasn't enough for them. And like you said, Rodgers, he was bad. He didn't do his job at all. Especially, the play that stood out to me was when Norman came in and he had the one-on-one coverage on his boy Adams, and he missed the pass to Adams, who was decently covered by Norman, but was open in the world. He missed the deep pass to Adams also into double coverage. So there were definitely plays that were big that he missed, that we don't see him miss in the regular season. And the defense didn't stand. The defense was there, I should say. It was just all really the one person who wasn't there was Rodgers. And so does it stain him for next year? I think Rodgers has a history of putting himself first in ways that other players, such as oh my goodness, the quarterback out of Auburn who got to one Super Bowl and lost.
Cam Newton.
Yeah. I think if you look at them, they're very similar in terms of who they present as. Cam Newton doesn't have a Super Bowl win. He does have just as many appearances. And Cam Newton gets ridden for it a lot harder than Rodgers does. Now, there's some other guys who are working. He's very diva-y in the quarterback position. And I think the one team that's made for him has a coach and an organization that we've heard the Pittsburgh conversation around him stop as soon as he missed a game because he did something selfish, and that's what it is for taking the politics out of it. He did something selfish and he missed the game. The conversation about him going to Pittsburgh ended, and it was all about, is he going to Denver? Is he going to San Francisco? So yeah, I think this stains him a little bit. Look. If he ever gets a second Super Bowl, one in the beginning of his career, one at the end of his career, the sandwich meat won't matter. I'm going to be honest about it. He'll be a 2-time Super Bowl winner, multiple MVPs, and he's probably even right now walking into the Hall of Fame, but he'll walk in the Hall of Fame even higher, and depending upon where he'll go, he'll stand a chance. Not staying in Green Bay. They're not signing Adams back. They're pulling that team apart and going to hope for the best in Jordan Love. And Jordan Love sucks to be able to draft another rookie quarterback with the number 1 pick next year when good quarterbacks are coming out of the draft.
Funny that you mentioned the possible meat in the sandwich not mattering for a 2-time Super Bowl winning quarterback. If Rodgers were to win a second Super Bowl somewhere else, because that's exactly what happened with Peyton Manning, who went to Denver and did exactly that. Heck, the last Super Bowl that they won despite Peyton Manning, because Peyton Manning was terrible that year with 9 touchdowns and 16 interceptions and missed several games due to injury. I believe it was
But Manning has
Osweiler.
4 Super Bowl appearances, multiple championship games, and by the way, had a rivalry with a guy named Tom Brady. So,
Right.
whereas
So Rodgers
there's nobody for Aaron Rodgers to go, that guy was in my way every season. As a matter of fact, he had lost one of the games against Brady. This week he lost to Garoppolo, who, by the way, I just wanted to point out before we get too far away, Garoppolo had the 5th highest completion percentage among quarterbacks this year at 68%. And completed at 8.8 yards per completion, per attempt. So if you're sleeping on Jimmy G because you don't think his game is as sexy as his face, you may be missing out. I'm just saying, the team who gets Jimmy G next year is going to be happy. Don't sleep on him at all.
My take on this is that it's not going to affect the Rodgers rate. I think he will get what he's going to get, regardless of the fact that whether an egg was dropped here or not. I'm going to throw a bit of an odd horse into this mix, and I'm not going to say Denver. I'm going to say LA is a possibility if they can work out a deal where they would trade somehow Matt Stafford to go to Green Bay. Humor me on this one because Matt Stafford's got 1 year left on his deal. Is it possible some kind of a switch could be done there where Stafford wanting to go, Rodgers wanting to go to LA, to get that LA connection to build his career outside of football, moving into Hollywood, moving into hosting. He's already hosted Jeopardy. His fiance, significant other, I'm not sure where their dating life is at, is Shailene Woodley. I mean, that's a high profile, Hollywood celeb there. You have, in this case, he might be thinking his future a little bit, which is why I would lean towards maybe San Francisco before Denver or Pittsburgh even. I would even take into this and just throw my proverbial hat into the ring. Why not? To say, why not possibly LA? And get right in the heart of this and start building his connections. So he plays 1 year in LA, retires, and then immediately goes into every big budget Hollywood film, every whatever reality show or, Fox or NBC, whatever cooking show, whatever they've got.
I would agree.
That to be awesome.
I would agree with that if it wasn't for the off the field garbage and the words from Rodgers' own mouth. That has kind of put a damper on Rodgers' post-career Hollywood value, I think.
If Hollywood has taught us anything, they turn a cheek quickly when necessary.
I have another huge reason why I don't think that's going to happen. And I'm glad you're giving us the chance to seg right into my complaints about Coach McVay and how he really almost cost the Rams the game, and he's going to get away with it unscathed. I haven't heard anyone say it. Maybe on one of the super in-depth television shows. And I was watching a lot of football coverage over the last 24, 48 hours.
Fair.
I think Rodgers is going to see what I saw and not want to go there. First of all, Tom Brady is the Tiger Woods of golf. And what I mean by that is Tiger Woods would win golf tournaments, not just because he was great, but the name Tiger Woods scared the other guys who get paid tons of money to hit a white ball. And in this case, it scared a ton of other professional football players, except for, and kudos to him, Matt Stafford. Mm-hmm. So that's what we saw. Just the idea that the other guy on the other side was Brady. I have Brady's drive chart. He was horrific even in that second half. Mm-hmm. They didn't score. They had the one big 70-yard drive, but the other two touchdowns, they had the ball on the 30. They had two times they lost the ball on downs, one of them starting on the 45. So that game was lost. But at the end of the first half, first of all, I liked that McVay was running even though he couldn't run the ball because it set up the play action, which was working great. But on first and goal, he doesn't go at the end of the first half. He doesn't go play action. I don't know why more coaches don't. This is me sitting here yapping. Maybe if I was a coach, somebody would really explain to me why you don't go for it. Play action on first and goal from the 6. But to me, that seems like exactly where you go for it. But then most coaches then try to go for that play on second down when I think the defense is ready for it. But he didn't. Took the ball out of Stafford's hand at the end of that half twice. It resulted in a bizarre fumble. Away you go. Now, when you're trying to win the game with 2 minutes, 18 or so seconds left at the end of and you need a first down. Everyone's going to tell you to run the ball. And if you run the ball and you don't fumble, what I'm saying doesn't matter. But you did fumble. But if you would put the ball in Stafford's hands there, had faith, like if Mahomes had the ball there, you wouldn't be like, hey, just give it to CEH. If Brady had the ball there, you wouldn't be like, hey, just run it out, give it to Fournette. You'd be like, hit Gronk. Well, hit Higbee. Hit the best wide receiver in the NFL this year. Hit the guy who's come to your team and all of a sudden looks like the guy he was 5 years ago. There was options there, and again, they took the ball out of his hands. He's forced to put the ball in the hands of the only guy who's not playing scared all game, and Stafford did it. That being said, this question started with Rodgers. I think Rodgers is going to see what I saw. He's going to see the ball did come out of the quarterback's hand, and I think Rodgers is not going to want to play for McVay. And I also think that McVay trading Stafford, especially if they don't win the Super Bowl, it's going to look bad on McVay. And this guy just has that sort of, I'm not going to get rid of this. Is the guy I picked. This is the guy I'm going to win with. This is the guy I'm doing it with. I don't think he's going to accept Rodgers, and I don't think Rodgers is going to go to him.
Fair. Just tossing it out there from a Rodgers perspective. I think he may want to go, though, depending. But anyway, go ahead.
He may want to go there, but do the Rams want him? Do the Niners want him? I mean, yes, we can talk all we want about what would be a good spot for Rodgers, but do those teams want him? Why would LA want to go from Stafford to Rodgers? Why would San Francisco want to go from when they already have Trey Lance? That would make a little more sense if they're just bringing in Rodgers for 1 year and they aren't sold on Trey Lance just yet. But at the same time, I don't think they actually do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of money they're throwing away if they get Rodgers. I mean, I think they want to get rid of Garoppolo, possibly, and then use the money that they get to save by having a rookie quarterback. Bringing in Rodgers, you lose that huge flexibility.
And also, the Rams had to give up a lot of draft capital as sweetener in order for Detroit to take on Jared Goff's horrific contract. So the Rams don't really have the assets to trade for Rodgers.
Yeah, like I said, I just thought it would be an interesting curiosity. Somebody threw it at me once, and I'm like, yeah, it's certainly possible. I mean, it's like I said, Stafford's got 1 more year. I think he's got about $12.5 million on that deal.
It's possible because of Rodgers trying to pull a LeBron, as you said, of trying to, set himself up for Hollywood after he's done playing. But I don't think it actually happens because there's no need for him.
Now, in this case, basically, there is a game going on between the two teams that we talked about as potential destinations here. You got San Francisco, who's won 6 straight games against LA. Going into LA, can they pull off the Cinderella NFC and pull off a win here?
People like to say you can't beat a team twice in the season. It's hard. It's surprisingly easy. So there is that for San Francisco. That defense, as JD was talking about when I was kind of unable to hear, but I could sense, is for reals. Pressure with 4 up the middle. I just feel like something finally clicked in LA. I have everything in my brain tells me actually San Francisco gets the upset. But the outer head of me is going, no, something clicked. Both I know JD, you sent us the Dan Reeves quote, not Dan Reeves, I apologize, the Big Red quote about when things get grim, you send in the Grim Reaper. And then Stafford's like, I was in a dark place. I took somebody's soul. Like, I want to see those two guys go against each other. So I think Kansas City is about to play another practice game. Despite how much faith I have in Cincinnati's offense, I don't know what's happening in San Francisco. That defense really scares the bejesus out of me. And like I said on NFL Insiders, when San Francisco won, I was really pretty confident Brady wasn't making the Super Bowl. 2 great 4 rushing, 2 great defenses who got pressure with 4. And it still applies to Stafford too. And it's a great defense.
JD?
I would say that the Rams have a better offensive line than Tampa to maybe be able to hold that pass rush from San Francisco. And if San Francisco has won, if they've won 6 times in a row, then by that token, the Rams are due, and they're playing at home. So I think it could go either way, but with those trends, I like LA's chances, especially playing at home. They want that shot at Big Red. Stafford wants that shot to give a giant middle finger to Detroit. At which point, which that's the only thing that I think could possibly make a Rodgers to LA trade happen, is if Stafford says, I want to go to Green Bay and stick it to Detroit again.
Well, yeah, in this case, you play him twice a year in that case. But,
yeah,
I mean, Stafford,
like a reverse Favre, if you will, like Favre did with the Vikings.
Stafford's QB rating actually is 13 points higher this season than his entire career in Detroit. And the fact that he is in his career had never beaten a team 5 games over 500 until this year, and this year he did it 3 times. If you include the playoffs here, there is a lot to look at and be like, damn, that's impressive. Maybe there's some trade bait there. Maybe he goes someplace depending. I mean, I don't know. It'll be interesting. We can delve into that one in its own due time. I think in this case, LA will probably take this game because of the fact they have more experience. They are playing at home, and Aaron Donald wants this. And you know what? So does OBJ. OBJ has never been this close before, and he is in a big market. He's in a very OBJ-esque market, and he is actually getting that ball the way he wants. And I think he's going to be a force to be reckoned with because he knows he has never been this close before. And that's a big difference there, I think, for a guy like him who plays with as much ego as he has.
Is OBJ a free agent at the end of the season?
I do not know, actually.
Yeah, I think it was a 1-year deal, right?
Point. Yeah. But
I know you have something you want to talk about, but I give you this thought on OBJ, especially if they go out and win. Does OBJ go over and join his LSU friends, i.e. Chase and Burrow, and try to be an LSU championship to Cincinnati if Cincinnati doesn't win this year?
I don't think Cincinnati's big enough.
For as much as you dumped on Cleveland, and the lack of nightlife options there, do you really think that he's going to go to Cincinnati?
No, not when he's tasted LA.
Okay.
He loves LA.
I happen to agree. There's a better chance he'll end up in LA with Bobby Aber, Michael Williams, and oh my goodness. Saying that out loud. All right, let's get to that subject you want to talk about so we get to it at least.
Yeah. The second longest tenured head coach in the NFL right now is now, in fact, Mike Tomlin, because Sean Payton shocked the NFL by announcing that he is actually stepping down after 15 years as the head coach of the New Orleans Saints. It's something that I think some people may have seen coming. A lot of people didn't. There was a lot of uncertainty in the front office when it came to New Orleans and what his plans were. So with New Orleans, you're losing a future Hall of Fame head coach here. What do you do, and how much chaos does this actually bring to New Orleans, in your opinion? Either one of you guys want to start first? I'm fine.
I think it brings a complete reset in New Orleans, especially since they don't have a quarterback for next year, and Taysom Hill doesn't count.
Well, they had 4 quarterbacks last year.
Yeah, and there was a quote, I believe it was Mike Francesa, who of all people, who said when you have 2 or 3 quarterbacks, that means you have no quarterback, and I think that absolutely applies with the Saints currently. I'm surprised, but not surprised with Peyton. With Sean Payton leaving. I mean, heck, a lot. I think if there's anything that can be relatable to Sean Payton's situation to the rest of the world outside of sports, is getting burned out at your job, especially when you've been through a bunch of crazy stuff in the past few years. With Breeze retiring, the hurricane exile for the first month of the season. From New Orleans, having to do that multiple times over the years, and just it's a lot. I mean, Peyton he's also had COVID multiple times, I believe at least twice in the past 2 years. So he's been through a lot. So needing to take a break, I get it. Where does New Orleans go from here? I don't know. It's
Flores, maybe.
Who do you build around on that team when you don't have a quarterback?
I mean, the
Yeah,
thing
so
about go ahead, please.
I'm not. It was unexpected, but then when you think about it, like JD said, he's been around for a while. He lost his quarterback. He was the one guy who we had faith can make Winston something, and he kind of did while Winston wasn't hurt. But he had this bizarre love affair with Taysom Hill, and the team is probably like, we're getting rid of Hill. We don't know what.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that's probably what it came down to. And he's like, okay, I'm going to leave. Now, the interesting thing is, he says he's retiring this year. Where does he end up in? Like, this could I could very much see him taking 1 year off and deciding to come back.
Yes.
I agree with JD. I feel like it's a lot of just like, this is a mess of a place I'm in, and like the rest of America, I'm just going to resign. And then now we're talking about, where is Rodgers going to end up? Where is Wilson going to end up? Where is Watson going to end up? What's his story going to be like? They're going to be good rookie quarterbacks coming out next year. Oh my goodness! By the way, has Jacksonville hired a coach yet? How's Trevor Lawrence look to you, like Sean Payton? Like the money that's going to be thrown at him to come out of retirement in a year from now will be fascinating, because there will be. If it's not even just this year, like, I took 6 months off and now I want to come in.
He's still under contract with the Saints. He has 3 years left on his contract with the Saints. So if any team was to do that, they would need to compensate the Saints accordingly as well. So keep that in mind.
Absolutely. But we just saw what a couple years ago what they paid for Chucky, who hadn't been in the booth for 10 years. So I just think that that's the bigger question. I don't know that, who's going to it's not like it's any more of an attractive job than any of the other jobs not named. I mean, Jacksonville's the attractive job. It's the one with a young quarterback, and it's still a crappy job. So I don't think this job's any more attractive than anything else. So who knows who's going to end up there? I don't think it's going to, we'll see how the coaching carousel turns.
I think in this case, he does not want to be part of a rebuild. I think at 58 years old, he's past the rebuild. When you had Drew Brees, I think since 2016. What's that?
He's only 58.
He just turned 58 about 3 weeks ago.
He looks a lot older than 58, hence why he wants to. Use the line from the first Indiana Jones movie. It's not the years, it's the mileage.
Right.
And in this case, he's 58 years old. He probably feels ridiculously old from that. And he does not want to be part of a rebuild. Between him and Drew Brees, they had more regular season wins, I think, since 2015 or 16, I figure out what it was, than every other team in the NFL. Forget the postseason. But he played for January every single year. And New Orleans is not a team that can play for January right now because of the fact that they are in such a degree of chaos. And he's like, you know what? Like you said, maybe he'll take a year off. Maybe he'll, roll with something, come up, maybe he'll take a broadcasting job. You don't know. He'll follow in Drew Brees' footsteps and start doing Quaker Oat commercials.
Hopefully he follows in Drew Brees'
footsteps
and gets Drew Brees out of the box.
I can see Peyton getting a job on Sunday Night Football. I can see something like that very, very, very easily. So
I can't imagine. I'd say the chances that we don't see Sean Payton on our TV next year are somewhere between slim and none. Like whatever, I'll take that bet. Whatever that bet is, I'll take whatever the odds you want to give me that we see him.
Have him on the show. You know what? Why not? Let's see if we can make something happen as far as Sean Payton goes. But right now we may at this point, I'm not sure. I guess we have a minute left. We'll have to see. But I wanted to give you guys an open platform. Do you have any other final thoughts? Do you have anything you wanted to go into?
We have the Baseball Hall of Fame election results coming out tonight. I believe that results show is either going on at the same time as us or might be right after us. I forget if it was 4 or 5 that they were doing that. So Since we don't have any current baseball or future baseball to talk about, the only thing would be the past. It'd be interesting to see if
And if
Ortiz
Ortiz
makes
gets
it in
in,
on the
yeah.
first ballot. Meanwhile, he failed the same 2003 steroid tests that Bonds and Clemens and A-Rod did, yet it's held against them. It's a
Dude, I
garbage
say
double
let him in. Let
standard.
them all in.
Yeah,
If you let Bud Selig in during all of that, you have to let the players in.
exactly.
And the coach
And the
and
way
the
that the way that
managers who
writers,
manage them, and
the way that the writers are trying to retroactively pontificate, from their moral high horse when they did nothing while it was going on. Give me a break. The whole thing's a joke.
We can break this one down next week, I think, but we got to wrap it up for right now.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer. Thank you, Mr. Walker, down there. Down there. There you go. This is, of course, Spanglish World Sports Den. You can find us on Twitter at SSW Sports Den and Spanglish World Sports Den on Facebook and Instagram. For myself, for Mr. Obi Spencer, for Mr. JD Walker, for Steph for basically coming on talking about getting Sean Payton, and it's awesome. And for that other dude who's talking about soccer, we'll set up something in that arena too. Anyway, I'm Scott. Have a great night. Take care.